Welcome back to the Fire Break. I'm Steve Wolf. We're sponsored by Team Wildfire, and I'm not going to say anything about it beyond that because I want to get right into our guest today. I've got the Darryl Meadows with us. Now, Darryl Meadows, you may have known that he was an NFL football player on multiple teams, the New York Jets being one of them. I'm wearing my green today, and
That's
and
unfortunate.
but what you might not have known about Darryl is that he was also a fire marshal, and that's probably not a lot of people who have held those two titles. Darryl, welcome to the Fire Break. How are you today?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good.
You
I'm
look good.
excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm working. I'm working on that too.
So first of all, what does it take to get into the NFL for
It
you? What did it?
takes
What? Yeah.
well.
What kind of
Well,
commitment was that?
for me, it took a lot of people encouraging me. You know, I was. I tell the story. I was 4'11". Uh, I weigh 98 pounds. I'm in the eighth grade, and you wouldn't think that a kid that small, really was going to be a football player. But I was fortunately pretty good at football, and I played running back and I played middle linebacker at that size in the eighth grade, which is really a really small kid. But I excelled at it, and my coaches encouraged me. They told me, just wait, you're gonna grow. They could see how big my dad was, and some other people in my family, and it was just a matter of time of growing. And you know I was fortunate enough to go to a great high school uh, that allowed me to be able to pursue the positions that I wanted to pursue, and it kind of transpired from there.
And then once you had that opportunity, you made it work.
Well, it's all about opportunity a lot of times, and the fortunate thing for me was even after playing, in the NFL, I was able to come back to my high school and coach for 15 years there. And we started some programs there that actually turned around and made us state champions. So, and that was, my goal from the outset. I never won a championship in high school. We didn't even come close. We had those years when I was in school where Moeller High School was, the number one team in the nation, and they were in our league, and we would play them every year. So, unfortunately, we never beat them when I was there. But when we came, as we worked our way back, as a coach, we found ways, you know, to kind of up our game, and we beat them. We beat them the year that they won the state championship. We won the state championship in our division, and because we're a smaller school than them, they went on to win Division 1 title. We won the Division 2 title, but we're in the same league, which to me, kind of proves that, you know, we were the better team.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I know there's a lot of variety of personality types on a team,
Oh
but
yeah.
I think that the team probably shares more in common with each other than they do with most people, because millions of people say, I'm going to be an NFL star when I grow up, but only a tiny percentage of them are able to do it. What are the personality traits, in terms of the drive and the persistence and believing in yourself that it takes for you and for all the other guys on the team?
Well, I tell my players that it's ever changing, and what that means is back when I played, a lot of times talent was the thing that got you, in front of somebody. It's just your sheer talent. Sometimes it was just your size. You have guys that just look the part, so they get the opportunity. Um, and nowadays, it comes down to a lot of things, a lot of data, uh, a lot of putting yourself out there and doing the things that you have to do. You have to put yourself basically on a path where you're not just going to get recognized, but once you get there, you have to perform. All right. So, a lot of kids, they prepare, but when it's time to step up, it's, you don't look too good because you're so nervous and you're all of that. So you have to put yourself in situations to overcome those feelings. And, and once you reach playing against the best and you take on that attitude that I'm one of the best, then you have no fear when you're out there. You don't fear the guy across from you. You don't fear, the situations that arise. You just go out there and play, and it makes you, feel like, I deserve to be out here. I deserve to be out here, and you have to put yourself, on that echelon, because if you don't, if you have some kind of, imposter syndrome or anything like that happening, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, right. So you got to have that confidence. You got to realize that the people who put you there know what they're doing. They trust in you, and
Yeah, it's
you
not even
trust
them. It's about you trusting in yourself.
exactly. That's
If yeah, yeah, if they there's been many times, you've got thrown in situations and people didn't expect what transpired. Like I was a linebacker. I was built to be a linebacker in high school. And I played linebacker and I loved it. But I knew at 190 pounds, linebacker was not going to be the position for me in college. So I wanted to go somewhere where I could make that transition to a defensive back, strong safety, free safety, just being able to give myself an opportunity if things excel. And so I went to a smaller school, went to University of Toledo at the time. I had scholarship offers from various schools. North Carolina was offering me, and they wanted me to play linebacker, and I chose to go to University of Toledo because they're going to let me play strong safety. And once I got there, I had an opportunity, but the guy in front of me was so good that I had to switch positions. So really my freshman year, I really didn't play that much, which was okay. I had to get acclimated to school and being there on my own, not having my mom around and things like that. So, but by my sophomore year, I was able to do, I was able to get in the weight room, get stronger, get faster. And when the time came, I was able to excel on the field. And, that's where I think that's where most of my, I want to call it I don't want to call it courage, but most of my belief in myself came during that year.
a great growing up process, right? You
Yeah. Yeah.
go from
Yeah.
being the big fish to the little fish back to the big fish, and then
Right.
swimming in a lot of different ponds. So
Yeah.
I'm most curious now. How did you go from NFL player to fire marshal?
Ooh, that's a story. um, when I left the NFL, well, I was still in the NFL, and I started a company back up. I worked for an industrial painting company when I was in high school in the summer, and it was one of the first black-owned businesses in Cincinnati, and the gentlemen that owned it were older when I was working there. They were pretty old, and so they actually kind of closed down. And my uncle used to be the general manager there, so he ran the employees. And so we got in a discussion about maybe opening it back up, and we went and did some research, and I went around and talked to some of the old clients that they had and see if there was a need, and there was. So we started it back up, and so I got into that realm of a business owner, and I and it was hard because I was going back and forth, you know, doing my thing. But my uncle was so versed in what he was doing. He was there for so long that he, knew what to do and a lot better than I did. So from there, we were in business. Um, we had a fire, and our business got shut down for about a week.
And this was a
Probably
paint fire or a thinner fire? Or?
It was in our paint booth. So where we had our paint booths on the back of the building where you ventilate everything, that whole back end. It was a brick. It was a brick building, concrete block and all that. So, but the roof basically back there got burned off, and we were basically out of business at that point, for a while. And just seeing those guys go to work, I mean, they went in. They didn't hesitate. I was in the, I saw the smoke coming out. I ran in there and it's like, oh. So, you run back, you make the call. And there's some things in there that, that could have exploded and all kind of things. Just, where paint thinners and all kind of stuff in there. They went in with no hesitation, put it out. And they really saved my business. They really, did the things that firemen are supposed to do. They keep people in business. They don't put people out of business. And they did it right. So I never really forgot that. A friend of mine who was a fireman, I told him about what happened. And he was like, you know what? They got a test coming up. You should take the test. I'm thinking, I didn't have time to take the test. He said, just take it. So I said, okay. So I called a buddy of mine that lived in Toledo. We were really good friends. I was his. I showed him around Toledo on his visit when they were recruiting. A gentleman named Melvin Tucker. So I called him. I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about taking the fireman test. Let's take it." So he's like, "All right, I'll come down." So he came down, and you got to remember, this is like in dead winter. We go down to take the test.
Toledo is a nasty winter, right?
Well, we're in Cincinnati.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Not much better for the winter, though, right?
Yeah, well, the winter's a lot better than Toledo. Toledo is like on the lake, and it's terrible. But Cincinnati, just a little less. They get 10 inches, we'll get 5 inches, kind of thing. So he came down. We went down to downtown Cincinnati and went to the convention center where the test was being held. We walk in and there's, 5,000 people in there taking this test. And it's like, wow, it's amazing how many people are in there. But we went through it and we both ended up getting the job. And Melvin was actually the first person. We had a class of 40. He was the first person in our class to get promoted, which was, something that was big because, we had some guys that were already firemen at the different departments that came on, but he excelled at it. And, he was our first person that got promoted out of our class. And, I was actually on the fire companies for about 6-7 years. And, going to people's homes, EMT, you're on an ambulance, you're doing all of those things. And I loved it. I became a driver. I did that for about a year, but I didn't like it because I couldn't go in anymore. You stayed out there with the apparatus a lot of times just to make sure, nothing got stolen off of it or whatever. But, and you had to be ready to, to put the stick up in case you've got, high-rise fires and things like that. But I just like being involved in it, being, caught up in going in and doing things. So from there, I just decided that I wanted to get into the construction end. I was always in construction before, and being a fire marshal allowed me to get into that. So I took an exam for that, got the position, and really just loved it. I mean, it was the best move I believe I ever made. I met so many people, so many construction companies, owners of businesses. And, my goal really was to kind of change the attitude of that position. Because initially when you get that position, it was for older guys ready to kind of retire. They don't have to fight fires anymore. You're just out there doing inspections and talking to customers and business owners and stuff like that. But I wanted us to be something better than that. I wanted us to be the voice of the fire department as it comes to bringing enterprise to the city of Cincinnati. We're the people they're going to talk to, these business owners, when they're deciding to build buildings, when they're deciding to rehab buildings. We're the people they're going to sit down and they're going to talk to. And I wanted us to be a more professional organization that bring some professionalism to that, and it hadn't been that way before. And you know, the one thing that I'm really truly proud of is that that group grew and became that. We established a lot of things in there where we created a group of not just firemen but building inspectors and you know, plant examiners, and we created a pre-development program where we brought people who are interested in doing business with the city in a meeting, and we went over everything that they were going to be expected to do, and through that process they could ask any of us any questions, and we would be able to provide them with that information that they needed, you know, and it gives them a sense of, you know, where do I start, and where will this thing end? And there's no surprises. You don't want to, you know, at the end of your job, you're saying, well, you can't get a CO because of this or
you got to rip out the floor because we didn't get to say.
Right.
Right.
So we gave them direction, and that's what you want. You know, you just want direction. You want to know what's expected of me through this process, and that's what the pre-development program turned out to be. And you know.
Did you see any correlations there, or you know, many times during your career, wherever you're sitting, you look back and you say, everything I've done to this point, you know, brought me to where I am now. Right? And
yeah.
So when you talked about wanting to bring professionalism to the fire department, you know, you had worked in the ultimate professional organization in professional sports.
Right.
So what of that NFL career influenced the way you decided to run the fire marshal's office?
Well, I'll tell you that what changed, what I always fought against, when I told you when I was in high school, I worked for this company, these guys that owned this business, and the business was great, but the professionalism and the work atmosphere wasn't. The guys that ran it, they ran it like, you know, you're going to do this. It was no real clarity of what your job was. It was kind of like you should know what to do, you know, and I had no idea. I mean, it's kind of like you know, you have to instruct me to tell me what I need to do next. I'll do this job, and okay, this job is finished. Now what do? Well, I stand around, and then they get mad at you if you're standing around. So I never wanted to feel that way at work. I never wanted anybody to feel that way who worked for me. I want them to understand the process. I want them to understand what it takes for this product or this service that we're providing to make it work. And you have to have the same vision I have. And you know, if you have that vision, and if you understand what we're trying to do here, then it's easy to go to the next step. I shouldn't have to come to you and tell you the next step. And if you don't know, then we can sit down, we can have a discussion about it. But I'm not going to be mad at you or anything like that. Somewhere I lacked in what I was supposed to do to be able to provide you with that knowledge. And we just take it from there. Same way in the NFL. The NFL, you've got coaches. A lot of them are there because they're building a career. You know, nobody wants to be the defensive back coach for the rest of their career. They're trying to get to a, you know, defense coordinator to head coach job. You know, they're trying to get somewhere a little higher than where they are right now. Some of them lack the ability to be able to give you the needed information because they don't know. Really, sometimes they just don't know. They've never played the position. They don't know what, you know, they know what the key is, you know, a certain play or something like that, but they don't know exactly how that position should be, what it should look like.
I see.
The defensive coordinator, he knows. He's put this defense together. He knows what everybody needs to do. And to be able to be on the field for a very long time, you need to be able to understand what he's thinking.
Right.
And how it's going to work, and be able to make that play when it comes to you. And that's what it's all about, you know. But you know, taking that to the fire department was key, I thought, because it's not me trying to build myself up. It's the whole group. And if the whole group understands what we need to do and my bosses buy into it, then they're going to run with it. It's going to make them look a lot more professional. And it's going to go, it's going to bring the fire department up a few wrongs, as I like to say, on the ladder, to everybody in the city at that point. And, so we were fortunate. We grew as an organization. We didn't stay stagnant. We didn't stay in a position where you have a fire chief who just sat there and did nothing. We had people that were really proactive and took our fire department to the next level. Yeah.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that one of the key skills that you brought and that other people needed at similar levels was that you had to have a vision,
mm-hmm.
and then you had to be able to communicate that vision clearly so that everybody on the organization bought into it and understood what the plan was.
Right.
So what are the strategies that you came up with or that you learned and employed for building your vision and sharing your vision? How do you get everyone on the same page?
I think I learned a lesson my first year as a fire marshal. My very first case that I had, I went to this company. They didn't have elevator recall.
Okay.
On their elevators.
Yeah.
It was a high-rise elevator, which required. It was an ordinance that really was very old.
That's quite an oversight, right?
Oh yeah, and it was just left dangling out there. Nobody did anything about it. So I wrote an order, and I took them to court. And they kept telling me, "Well, we'll do it when the city pays for it or whatever." That was their attitude, and I said, "Well, that's not a solution. We have to find a solution. The city's not going to pay for something that you should have did, 10 years ago."
Right.
And so we went to court a few times, and in the end, they ended up, losing the case. They had they had to get it fixed. Plus, they had a fine of some thousands. I don't know if it was $20,000 or $30,000 fine and all that. And afterwards, I talked to the lawyer that represented them, and I said, look, all you guys had to do was sit down. All we had to do was sit down and talk. Nobody wanted to talk. I didn't meet you until we were into this court process. But if you would have sat down, talk, we could have worked out a solution that would have benefited not only you guys holding on to your money or whatever. You could have put that money toward fixing the problem, because in the end, they spent almost $1 million fixing the problem. And I said, you went through a process you really didn't need to go through. If the owner just was willing to sit down and have a conversation, because with that conversation, I can get more people, from our upper echelon in our group to buy in and say, hey, we're going to give them this amount of time to get it done. We can work through this solution. Everybody understands what's next, but we never were able to get to that point. So I told myself, and you're just getting there and you really don't understand all of that. But I told myself I would never have to feel like I needed to take somebody to court again. I came to the conclusion that through conversation, through an action plan, that we can work out anything than having to go to court. Because court, it takes forever. Nobody really wins in the end.
The lawyers win.
Well, the lawyers always win. but the real thing about it is, it's a solution that if we all come up with it, it works for everybody. And, it makes the city look good, makes the fire department look good, and it doesn't cause any, animosity between, these two groups. And we're there to try to encourage people to buy into the city of Cincinnati at that point. We're trying to bring employers into the city, build that program, and it doesn't look good if we're in court taking companies, to court and fine them. So So I didn't think that that was something that I wanted to do again. You know, you know look for better solutions.
Yeah, I think a lot of government administrations don't realize that a difficult or easy relationship with business is going to either bring business to the city or drive business away.
Right, right, yeah. That, you know, our Cincinnati had always been kind of viewed as a tough place to do business, and we had some city managers that came in to change some programs, but now through their process, through their you know, I think they went to a few cities and kind of looked to see what they were doing, but through those processes and those changes, you can get through the permit process fairly quickly. Um, and my thing with the fire department was we didn't want to be the stumbling block. We didn't want them to come to the fire department and we say, "Nah, you can't do that. Nah, you can't do this," or whatever. We had to be, in an organization, a professional organization, to be able to come in and say, "Well, this is the important thing that we need to be able to, the companies understand that they have to do." And some of it is some of the fire code changes that they made years ago, especially with, with the needing of a bidirectional antenna communication, emergency communication systems. Those were critical. Those became critical components of buildings, that didn't meet the standard, didn't meet, the requirement when they were building it. So we, that was one of my emphasis, to make sure that those buildings were equipped with that bidirectional antennas, because that safeguards our guys going in.
Right.
So that was one of the things that I truly, worked on. I wrote our code for the city on that, and it became, it's really a staple right now, in that fire department right now, to make sure that we're, safeguarding, our ability to go in buildings.
Essential work.
Oh.
I want to go back a couple of steps to the point when somebody was convincing you to come sit for the test.
Mm-hmm.
Right. At the time, you were running a business.
Yeah.
And so you sit for the test, and then you get a job offer. Tell me about the process of your decision to transition from business owner to city employee.
Well, I had a sit-down discussion with my uncle, and I told him what I was wanting to do, and so his agreement was he would do the day shift, I would do the night shift. So, and I told my wife, we're going to see how this works out. So we did that. And when we initially started, you work a regular shift, a regular time. You're in school for 26 weeks, fire college. So I would get off, I would go down to the shop, and then we would, work the night crew. And then I'd go home and get up in the morning and do it all over again. But you got to remember, I was a little older. I was 28 or something like that. But you're trying to build something.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to build something, age and all that other stuff, nothing really seems like it gets in the way. And I look back on it, I sometimes wonder how I did it. But but it was, through it all, I'd do it again. I learned so much. I grew so much as a man, as a father, as a husband. It gave me, some dreams and aspirations, to go toward, and that's all we can ask for.
Right. Tell me about your kids.
I've got two sons. They're both in their 40s. So
how did that happen? Weren't they just babies?
Nah, they never seemed like babies. They were
okay.
They grow up so fast.
Oh my God!
But yeah, grow up so fast. Neither of one. Well, my youngest son played football for a while, then he didn't want to play anymore. My oldest son never wanted to play, so he played tennis and stuff like that. He actually ended up being a girls tennis coach for a while, and he played baseball a little bit. Um, my youngest son, he lives in Austin. My oldest son lives here in California. It's in Irvine. So it's I got 4 grandkids.
Wow.
So I've got 2 boys and 2 girls. The girls are twins. They're 7, and we just spent a couple of weeks. Well, we spent a week with them a couple of weeks ago, and we had a ball.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So from a satisfaction perspective, being a grandpa, being in the NFL,
No,
no contest,
grandpa,
right?
no contest.
Grandpa.
That's the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize, how much satisfaction family brings.
Oh yeah.
Right? They think that that's just what you got to do, or there's the people you got to support. But the reason you're going to work is because of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That relationship. Sometimes when you're younger, you just think I'm gonna have any kids or whatever. I couldn't even imagine not having kids. It's such a great feeling. Being around my kids and being around my grandkids and just seeing them grow and build relationships and seeing them with the pets. They've got dogs and stuff like that. Just seeing them enjoying that, it's just so much fun, and I can't even imagine not being able to have that feeling that I have when I see them, enjoying life.
I see it on your face right now, Darryl.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
So you said that you spoke with your wife in the transition period
Mm-hmm.
from business owner to fire. Tell me about her role supporting you in these transitions.
Um, well, my wife has always been, that support, mechanism for me. You know, she she's very smart. She went to Walnut Hills High School, which is one of the most progressive high schools in the United States. And she went to Capital University, um, in Columbus, which is great organization. And then from there, she went to University of Toledo and graduated. She was in education. She made the transition from education into insurance.
Really?
Yeah, she did that, and then she went back into education. So she ended up becoming like what she was an administrator, and she handled the GE granted money to different schools. So she handled the GE grant, and then the Bill Gates and Melanie, his wife's, they had a thing where they donated to schools. She handled that program and stuff too. So she did a lot of things in the administrative role, there in Cincinnati public schools, and so she retired. But she did a lot of things. She became they call I forget the name of it, but they go through these programs and they teach teachers how to be better teachers. So she would have to go to different places in the United States and for like 4 to 6 weeks at a time.
Professional development, they call it. I think.
Yeah.
PD.
So she did that. She went to a couple things that Princeton University had, where they were training them to be, better at what they do. So, and I used to tag along just to go play golf or something like that. And so,
good for you.
But she was always somebody I could count on to kind of help me get through some stuff and kind of keep me grounded.
Yeah,
that's all. That's what you need.
Yeah, where you'd be without that? Nowhere, right?
Oh yeah,
or less than nowhere. So when you were in the fire service, you were mostly involved in structure fires, and then in administration, really in building code and working in that fire marshal office. So you probably didn't have firsthand a lot of exposure to wildfire, I'm guessing. But
No,
now you're probably breathing the smoke with everybody else as the smoke comes down from Canada, and I don't know if I don't think it's coming up from Texas, but it's not doing anyone any favors.
no.
So I'm just curious, what your perspective is on the wildfire issue, and if you were to tackle that, how might you go about it?
You know, I kind of looked at, um, you know, somebody. I was approached by a company that was, they were selling, or they still are selling, sprinklers for homes on the roof for wildfires, and these things, and the sprinklers would come on during that period to safeguard, you know, the homes that may be, impacted by a wildfire, and they have a really good success rate of saving homes. Uh, but So I just started doing some research, just trying to find out, and I found out I really don't know that much about wildfires. I know the best, I think the best way of preventing them is really to go out and try to abate all those areas that have the highest potential to, for them to start, and that takes a lot of manpower, a lot of hours of just being out in areas. But to me, nature is going to do what nature needs to do, and I don't know, the water situation. That's, to me, that's critical. You have to have reserves in places to, to allow the firemen to be able to to battle, at least some type of break somewhere. You've got to have that retardant to be able to to keep areas from becoming involved and things like that. But I've always had my hats off to those guys who go out and do that. It's just, we had one wildfire in Cincinnati that I fought, and it was at night. It was on the side of a hill, and I'm thinking, man, I was so tired after battling that blaze. It was kind of like, man, I don't see how those guys do that. You're up in the thick of stuff, and you still got a mask on because you don't want to be breathing that stuff. But it was really bad. It made me change my thinking about, hey, I could be a fireman out in California.
Yeah, that's probably a level of fitness though for those guys who do that full time.
Oh yeah,
that's comparable to a professional athlete. I mean, they
oh
are
yeah,
athletes, right?
they are
They're
definitely athletes.
chugging through 6,000-7,000 calories a day,
Yeah,
swinging axes and chainsaws, and
yeah. But the great thing about it is, it's the structure. So when you have structure and your role in a part that you play, it makes it so much easier than situations change and things kind of may improve or it may get worse. But if you understand what you're supposed to do if this happens, or if this happens, or if somebody gets hurt or whatever, there's a role that everybody has to play, and everybody understands when it's time to take action, and that's critical in any situation, especially out there during wildfire seasons, and you're out there battling stuff, because everybody out there in reality has a chance of perishing, if things got real bad.
yeah, it takes a lot of courage to go out and do battle with things that are so huge.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Nature's not
We
messing around.
so so tell me a bit about the, your background and with
Uh,
the wildfire.
yeah, I was a special effects coordinator, pyrotechnician working on
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood movies, and part of what special effects teams do is they make weather for
Right.
movies. There's some wind, some rain, some falling leaves or whatnot. Um, and I was also a volunteer firefighter,
Okay.
and go out on, some pretty big blazes in Texas. And I asked the firefighters, what are we doing out here? We got, little hand tools, what I refer to as medieval gardening tools.
Right.
A rake, a hoe, an axe. I mean, there's some 6,000-year-old technology there. Fires are changing.
Yeah.
We got to change too. What's it going to take to put these fires out? And the guys laughed and they said, Steve, it would take a hurricane to put these fires out.
Yeah.
So I said, well, okay, well, why didn't you say so sooner? We know how to make hurricanes, right? When Tom Cruise needs a hurricane or James Cameron needs a hurricane, they call the special effects team and they go build something for them.
Right.
So what it seemed that, given that the wind always is the dominant force in a wildfire, that we needed a wind machine that could literally blow fires back where they came from. Right?
Okay.
Fires coming up this way, if you redirect the flame tips and the heat back using your own wind source, then you're driving the fire back onto the area where it's already burned, and at which point it has no fresh fuel.
Right.
So when they said they needed a hurricane, I said, okay, let's make a hurricane on wheels, and it's got to be able to go to where the fire is. You can't just wait till the fire burns up thousands of acres until it gets to the nearest road and fight it there. You've got to go after it. So we decided to take logging trucks, which really can go anywhere, and
Right.
mount jet engines on them. And we're talking about pretty big jet engines from Lear jets and Gulfstreams, and then inject retardant into the exhaust of the jet engine.
Okay.
So now wherever your fire it is, you're pushing back with 200 plus mile an hour winds, and you're saturating it with a mist, a hard driven mist of retardant rain. You're laying that out in front of the fire, at the fire, and on structures that you want to protect, because a jet engine's a pretty good spray can if you're trying to mist a large area and cover it with something. So this was really just a napkin sketch idea a few years ago, and we solicited some funding, and a wonderful venture capitalist named Tim Draper threw the first check in, and that got us started. And he said, here's $500,000, get started, let me know how you're doing, what you need.
Wow.
And then we subsequently raised a few more $1 million, and now we're actually building out a prototype of the full-scale hurricane after we trialed it with some smaller jet engines in my driveway, actually. But much to the annoyance of my neighbors, because those things are loud. But we're just trying to figure out how can we build a better mousetrap? How can we create more technology so that firefighters can be more effective with their work?
Yeah. So I guess on your initial napkin sketch that you come up with, what do you look at one jet engine? What's the square footage that you took into account that you could affect?
So the usable exhaust from a jet engine is between 500 and 600 feet.
Right.
So that's a pretty good throw.
Yeah.
And then of course when you throw mist instead of water, you get a lot more suppression per gallon.
Yeah.
Because that mist stays up in the air. It turns into steam. The steam doesn't have oxygen, so it snuffs the fire out. And if you were to just, let's say, take a 600-foot radius from your truck and just spin the engine around, a 600-foot radius is 26 acres. So you could cover, 26 acres a minute.
Wow.
According to the napkin sketch.
Yeah.
Now in August we're going to have, the full-scale machine back. It's being built up in Ohio at a factory there.
Okay.
So then we'll start to figure out, what can it really do, and then I think firefighters will look at it and they'll tell us, this could do this, this could do that. They'll probably have a lot of ideas for how to use it that would be beyond what we thought of.
Wow. Yeah.
But if you could control the weather, you could control the fire. So that's really what the Greek gods knew that, right? They didn't have gods of software and this and that. Like if they wanted to make you a god, like you could control lightning, you can control fire, you could control the ocean,
right?
Because they know like those are the big things that we succumb to.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so
That's
that's what
great.
we're up to, Darryl.
That is great. I had no idea that you could sit there and come up with an idea like that, and when you think about it, you know, there's really no you know real way other than manpower, especially right now, you know, to put out fires. I mean,
Right.
everybody's there's people coming up with stuff. I saw where they had a like this packet they threw in this building and it blew up and put
Right.
the fire out. But you know, you don't see what happens afterwards. Part of part of what manpower allows. If I go into, especially out here, a $15 million house that's on fire,
Yeah.
I'm going to try to put out the fire in that area and not have to expose the rest of the area. Just from an insurance standpoint, we're trying to save people money and you know you know make sure we keep property values and stuff what they need to be or whatever. But I think if you just kind of walked in and just said, "Hey, we just need to put this fire out the best way we can," I mean, you can really do a lot more damage.
Oh yeah. The
And
house could become a total loss
yeah,
from water damage, just as if it had burned down. So,
yeah, yeah,
although if it burns down, it's likely to catch the neighbor's house on fire too,
yeah. That's true because
depending
now
on
you're
where
gonna
they are.
get the weeds and everything else on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you working on now?
Well, like I said, I'm doing the healthcare, employee benefits. I've been, really kind of learning the ropes. Uh, Healthcare in the United States, and I've seen it firsthand being a firefighter. Not everybody is on the same equal plan, and there's a lot of people walking around in the streets that need to be on meds, that mental meds and you know you know prescription meds and all. They just can't afford it. And there's working people, you know, there's actually working people that can't afford prescription drugs and things of that sort. And so I'm trying to find a better way to make it more affordable to organizations and to their employees. And you know, I think the solutions that we have with some of the companies that I'm working with provide the best opportunity for everybody in that organization, in an organization, to get their prescription drugs that they need. Even if you decided I want to opt out of my employer sponsored plan, we have a plan that we can offer to those employees. We can even come in and we can change a company's pharmacy benefit manager and offer an entire new PBM that is more reactive. It's better employee experiences, and it's a lot cheaper. And
Yes.
you don't have to worry about how much money they're going to ask you to provide next enrollment period, because that's the thing that companies can't you almost can't budget for, because you don't know what it is, and
Right.
it really comes up to the whim of who's running that PBM, how much more money they feel like they need to give you less service than they did the year before.
Right. So you're tackling this within a corporate lens.
Yeah.
Now, what about that homeless guy you talked about who's on the streets and needs his psych meds, or even to be evaluated before they
Mm-hmm.
could receive care?
Right. Yeah.
Well, the whole. I don't think anyone looks at healthcare in America and concludes anything other than the whole system is a giant mess.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a giant mess. And
Yeah.
And the bad thing about it is money, or the greed of money has got us here. And if you just kind of look at what the people already have, the people with the money already have, if they just tighten up the grip a little bit more, less, they just let go a little less pressure on it, it opens up a possibility for a lot of other people to receive services. the most scariest thing for people, I think, in you know, who don't have health care or have very bad health care, is getting sick. Because not it's you look at our hospitals, you look at, going to the emergency room. If you get a bill and you look at that bill, they're charging you for everything.
The bill
That's,
could
that's
actually give you a heart attack.
Well, yeah. I mean, people literally don't know what they're getting until when you show up, you want to be well, but it's kind of like going into the restaurant and they give you a smorgasbord, but they don't tell you that everything is a la carte. It's all priced a la carte. So they throw
Right.
everything at you, and then you say, well, this, and this, but you paid for everything. They're making you pay for everything, and in the end, when you come out, you might have been in the hospital for one day, and you got a bill for $30,000, and you look at the bill and you just shake your head. I'm reading a book by a guy who's figured it out years ago, and he talks about a lady went to the hospital, had a baby, and she looked at her bill and they charged her $32.39 for them picking her baby up and holding her baby and giving it to her. They charged her
Wow.
for
Wow. The baby holding fee, huh?
it. And I'm thinking, what? That's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy. But
Yeah.
when you get the itemized bill, they'll charge you for the Q-tips, for the aspirin, for everything. And
So how do we go about? I imagine if you could answer this question, we wouldn't be sitting here. But how do we make sure that everyone gets the care they need?
well,
Like, do we not consider health care, a basic human right that we want to afford to every person in this country?
I think the system of, if I'm on the street and if I just pass out, somebody picks me up in an ambulance, takes me to the hospital, that they're going to treat me. I mean, that's basic. They have to do that, even if you don't have insurance or whatever. There's got to be some type of funding for those individuals, and I think there are those. But middle class people who are struggling to afford it, we have to create a system who looks out for them, because you shouldn't be almost relegated to dying because you can't afford your health care. It's that's unheard of. Bless you. But that's what it's felt. That's what they kind of feel like. I'm not going to the hospital because I don't want to get that bill. Well, I've seen people that we try to force to go to the hospital. We had a lady, she needed to go. We had to monitor her on her and everything. And we said, you need to go. And she said, I don't want to go. So we said, well, we're just going to sit here for a moment because you're going to pass out. And once you pass out, we can take you. And she literally passed out. And we put her in an ambulance and took her to the hospital. But she did not want to go because she did not want to have a bill. And that's scary.
Well, I doubt that most people who get those insane bills, pay them because they can't.
Well, they can garnish your wages.
On medical debt, they can.
Oh, yeah. They can mess up your credit.
For sure.
Yeah. They're going to have bill collectors calling you. I mean, you're going to spend money getting a lawyer to fight it all. You're going to spend money somewhere. So it's kind of like, do I pay the hospital or do I pay the lawyer?
Yeah, right.
You're in that kind of situation. But my thing is, and I'm just one person, but I'm trying to collaborate with as many people as I can, learn as much as I can. I'm talking to people every day to get their opinions and who I should talk to next. And there's a movement out there. There's a collective of people, of organizations that understand that there's a need to change the way we're doing things. And I support it, and so I'm tied in right now, and I really enjoy the people that I've been able to talk to, and I look forward to talking to a whole lot of more people, and you know, wanting to lend my voice to whatever cause that we can do to help improve what's out there.
That's all you can do, Darryl.
Yeah, yeah,
Throw your support behind something and start talking to people until something moves.
yeah,
Move
yeah.
that needle. Wonderful. Well, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you spending this hour with us here. Fascinating career and life you've had, and
Well,
your
thank you.
ultimate accomplishment, being a grandpa.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Best thing that ever happened to me.
that's wonderful. Excellent. Well, I look forward to hearing more from you in the future about whether you're able to fix the healthcare system, or at least
Okay.
help people get some better insurance and get their needs met there.
Yeah.
And I know the fire community absolutely needs that service tremendously as well, because, as you know, they're exposed to all manner of hazards every day. Uh, Sometimes, the fire didn't get you, and then your uniform gets you, or
Yeah.
the chemicals
Yeah.
you're exposed to gets you. So
Yeah.
it's a super important topic for our firefighting community.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so
It's
much.
Hey, you're very welcome. And I really truly appreciate you inviting me to be on, and you know, I look forward to talking to you soon.
We will definitely be in touch. Well, folks, this is the one and only Darryl Meadows, from NFL to fire marshal, and now revolutionizing healthcare. One conversation at a time.
One
And that's the
conversation
way
at a
we
time.
do it right here on the Fire Break, one conversation at a time. So thanks for joining us. And I'm Steve Wolf. We are sponsored by Team Wildfire. We'll see you at the next one. Until then, take care.
Thanks, Dave.